Kimberly Crail is a wise woman, herbalist, and educator who came from Wall Street to the weeds. Casey's mission is to teach folks how to heal themselves using whole plants and foods as medicine. You can heal yourself with simple and inexpensive methods, foods, and herbs. And now, here's the host of Weeds of Wisdom, Kimberly Crail.
Hi, this is Casey, the Wise Woman. This is Weeds of Wisdom. It's Tuesday, October 28th, and I am going to have my guest, Carrie Cassidy, joining us. She's not with us yet, so she will be here shortly. And so I'm very excited. Always great to see her. I actually had an opportunity to see her again at a recent event, so that was fantastic. Super Soldier Activation Conference in Orlando that was put on by James Rink. So we appreciate James, and what an effort that was, and what a great conference that was. So Carrie is very dialed into the intergalactic community, the 3i Atlas. I'm sure we'll be talking about that, and some of the recent news that we've received that about what's going on in space off of our beautiful planet Gaia. So as we take a moment and wait for Carrie to join us, I wanted to hi Mark, how you doing? Good to see you. So this is this will be our presentation this evening when Carrie joins us. So I want to take just a moment to remind everybody that, you know, I spent 30 years in finance on Wall Street, and one of the things that I think that's really important for everyone to remember is that advertising speech is not, they can lie to you legally. In fact, there's a concept called let the buyer beware, or caveat emptor, which means that, hey, advertisers can lie or puff up claims, and you should expect that, and therefore let the buyer beware. So, you know, that's an important concept. So if somebody's selling a product or a service, you need to make sure that you verify whatever claims that they're making about the product service from other sources, because they may be exaggerating at best and outright lying at worst. So anyway, just want people to remember that. And the other thing is the business model. So every business has a business model, and that involves, in the medical industry's case, bringing people in regularly for checkups, and then prescribing prescription drugs for chronic conditions. Typically it's blood sugar, blood pressure. They tell you have too much cholesterol, so there's a lot of statin drugs. Those are the ones that I encounter the most often. And but you have to understand that these are not designed to actually cure you or heal you. They're designed to keep you just a little sick and coming back to the doctor, where, you know, every 6 months or so you'll get you know, a scary high-tech test, and then there'll be more drugs prescribed. So this is the business model of the medical industry, and they rely on what's called recurring income. And then they do what they call product line expansions. So now that I've got this customer coming back, then I can make more money by prescribing procedures, more drugs, etc., and so on. And gee, as a physician, I actually am incentivized to have as high a percentage of my patient population on prescription medications as possible. And of course, we know that the whole vaccination program also is heavily incentivized. So, yeah, so I think those are important concepts that, you know, if people don't spend half their life in finance like I did, they don't really appreciate that when it comes to medical care. So if you're well and you only go to the doctor when you're sick, the whole system would collapse, because it would have no recurring revenue base or patient base upon which to rely. And we know how much the medical schools have censored real information about health. They don't even teach doctors basic nutrition. I mean, how crazy is that? But it's so anyway. So and the two big points are related. It's all advertising for products. So just be aware of that. So I'm gonna hopefully get Carrie on here shortly. But I also wanted you to be aware of what it is that I actually do. And so my work is really not to heal you or fix you or any of that. My work is to teach you how to heal yourself and how to connect with your healer within. And so what I encourage you to do is think about whether you'd like to get a fish or be taught how to fish in terms of healing and herbal medicine. So I see Carrie's joined us. Fantastic, fantastic. And I will be launching again my Dancing with Cancer class. This encounter actually launched my teaching because a year after I apprenticed as an herbalist in upstate New York, a shamanic herbal apprenticeship, my friend was diagnosed with terminal stage 4 cancer. And this gruesome image here is actually a cardiac MRI of her chest. And what you see here is the white ghostly thing is the actual tumor. It looks like a ghost, like Casper the Ghost. And what you also see is that this is piercing the left ventricle of her heart. And so that was 12 centimeters. And she also had 2 tumors, metastatic tumors on her adrenals that were about 3 centimeters in size, which is pretty big. And I'm happy to say that she's still with us walking around today. And she did the chemo and the radiation. That was her choice. And we did a lot of things to mitigate the effects of those things. She had 30-odd radiation treatments, never even got a suntan, when a lot of the women in her group had to stop because their chests were cracked, skin was cracked and bleeding. So I am going to relaunch this class. It'll be a live class. It'll probably be in December. So I'm very interested. A lot of people I've been speaking with, and now we have the whole turbo cancer phenomenon that we're seeing in younger people. So I will be offering that soon. But reminding people, we are divinely made, and we have everything that we need. We've been given everything that we need. And so I encourage you to trust yourself. And if you'd like to support herbal medicine, I don't sell products. So if you'd like to make a donation, please feel free to do so. You can scan this code to pay. And without further ado, I'm going to talk about Carrie Cassidy. Her reputation precedes her. She's been doing investigative journalism and documentary films for over 20 years and founded Project Camelot. And she's also interviewed so many above top secret whistleblowers on secret space programs and a variety of topics that I just find endlessly fascinating. You can find all her work on I think it's back on YouTube, but I'm not 100% certain. Carrie will tell us. But definitely Rumble, Odyssey, and BitChute. And she also does conferences all around the world, and that's where I saw Carrie most recently, was at the Super Soldier Activation Conference in Orlando, where she spoke. Always fascinating. And then her book, Rebel Gene, is also available on Amazon. So anyway, so I see Carrie's joined us now, so I'm going to bring her on. Boy, there's a lot been going on recently. So I didn't really assign a topic for the day. I just figured we'd kind of wing it and hear kind of the big news from your perspective. And so let me know whenever you're ready.
Okay, I'm ready now. Sorry for the delay.
No problem. Patience is a virtue, I learned in the early 90s living in Russia. And you didn't really have a choice, It was like,
Wow.
You could have a fit and fall back in it, but it wasn't going to make something appear. So, but
Okay,
anyway.
interesting.
Yeah. Welcome. So I don't know where you want to start. I know that everybody's talking about 3i Atlas.
Well, I mean, I'm following 3i Atlas, and I'm also following various things that are going on with the White Hats and the Trump administration, and also just the general chatter out there. Now, I don't know if it's accurate, but I early this morning found a link to something that I think it's Dr. Brandenburg said. He published it out there somewhere, but then I could never find it again. So I don't know if it got taken down or what. But the 3i Atlas is actually reemerging from behind the sun earlier than planned. They thought it was coming out on the 29th, and today is the 28th. Okay, so some hours, and maybe it even came out. I mean, I don't know when he was saying it just came out, so it could have been last night. Anyway, if that's true, then there's a change in its trajectory. So we really have to keep track of that and see where that's going to head. So if anyone in the chat is catching this show live, has heard that same piece of information, feel free to volunteer where you got it, because I simply could not find the link after I had a very busy morning and I was not at home. I was in transit when I saw it on my phone. It came up and then it disappeared. So
Right.
very
Well, for the
interested.
folks on the Unix Network YouTube, they'd probably be the most likely folks like Mystifying Mark, who actually saw your presentation at the Super Soldier Activation Conference and is a big fan. So good. So yeah, I heard it. I had been listening to Michael Salla talking about how it was speeding up, and the theory was they were trying to do some slingshot effect around the sun. I don't know. You follow this a lot more closely than I do, but the fact that it does keep speeding up or slowing down and seems to be a little unpredictable, it makes me wonder. What do you think it is?
Oh, well, it's definitely a craft. It's a probably AI run craft, and I think it also does have some occupants. It's something like forget what the actual size is, 18 miles across or something. I probably am that wrong. Anyway, it's very large, so it could allow for a number, if you wanted to have a bunch of soldiers on board, or you want to have other beings of various kinds, it's hard to say. There is a news blackout that's been going on since the beginning. And Richard C. Hoagland, which is a scientist who is a former NASA scientist, has been blocked from doing shows on the subject since for several months now. He is able to get on email. What was happening originally was that all his electronics and even his phone was not working. So he went out of his way to deal with the city that he lives in and handle that with the utilities and so on and so forth. I don't know where we're at now. I know that there was supposed to be a show last night. I don't know if it ever happened. I've been trying to get some intel on that as well. The point behind that is that there was a memo that was leaked. You might have seen it. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Yeah, but I heard about it
months ago, and it's posted on my Substack, actually.
Okay.
If people are interested, on one of my 3i Atlas interviews, or not interviews, but I have many interviews, but they're embedded on that page, and the memo as well. So they were told I'm not sure, it came from NASA from what I understand, but it was probably spread out through the intelligence agencies, and someone leaked it. And it basically said to shut down all communications to do with 3i Atlas across the board. And that was several months ago.
Right.
So other than Avi Loeb and some,
I don't know. You follow this a lot more closely than I do, but the fact that it does keep speeding up or slowing down and seems to be a little unpredictable, it makes me wonder. What do you think it is?
Oh, well, it's definitely a craft. It's a probably AI run craft, and I think it also does have some occupants. It's something like forget what the actual size is, 18 miles across or something. I probably am that wrong. Anyway, it's very large, so it could allow for a number. If you wanted to have a bunch of soldiers on board, or you want to have other beings of various kinds, it's hard to say. There is a blackout, a news blackout that's been going on since the beginning. And Richard C. Hoagland, which is a scientist who is a former NASA scientist, has been blocked from doing shows on the subject since for several months now. He is able to get on email. What was happening originally was that all his electronics and even his phone was not working. So he went out of his way to deal with the city that he lives in and handle that with the utilities and so on and so forth. I don't know where we're at now. I know that there was supposed to be a show last night. I don't know if it ever happened. I've been trying to get some intel on that as well. The point behind that is that there was a memo that was leaked. You might have seen it. I don't know if you're aware of that.
It, but I heard about it
months ago, and it's posted on my Substack, actually.
Okay.
If people are interested, on one of my 3i Atlas interviews, or not interviews, but I have many interviews, but they're embedded on that page, and the memo as well. So they were told I'm not sure, it came from NASA from what I understand, but it was probably spread out through the intelligence agencies, and someone leaked it. And it basically said to shut down all communications to do with 3i Atlas across the board. And that was several months ago.
Right.
So other than Abbey Loeb and some not very clear images, we're still in the dark, I think. Now, I did these shows that had to do with an intel that I got. It was a download basically saying that it was an Anunnaki craft. And then I did shows with David Sereda, who's an expert, mathematician, aerospace, sort of idiot savant in the aerospace area in his early life. And he has documented the trajectory of this craft, and it all pointed to history that we have with planet Earth, religious holidays, believe it or not, and also Egypt, Sumeria, and various other connections. So that points again to an Anunnaki beginning, because they were very involved back in the day with our history as humans. So that was just a serendipity in the beginning. Now it seems that quite a few individuals have come out saying that they agree with me in terms of it being Anunnaki. There are other people out there that are trying to say it's coming from the star beings, galactics, so on and so forth, and that it's going to help us ascend and all this kind of thing, which I think is lies. Reminds me of the TV show V, where you might remember how wonderful and nice and sweet those invaders were. So I don't think you can go by misleading sort of wishful thinking. But at the moment, I've just done a show, I guess it was yesterday, and that was with Keith Hunter, and he was talking about everywhere where it's going, it's triggering. He thinks it's triggering CMEs, solar flares, and which are different, as well as earthquakes on Earth in its trajectory as it goes to from certain points that he shows how it triangulates a certain way.
Who is this? I'm sorry, I forgot the name.
Keith Hunter.
Keith Hunter. Okay, thanks.
Yeah. And it's on Rumble. It's on my Rumble right now, that show. And it's also on my Telegram if people are going there. You can go to my website, projectcamelotportal.com, and then hop over to Telegram from there, and you can see all my latest Telegram posts. And so you should see the Keith Hunter interview there. Anyway, so he was saying how it is having an effect on Earth, and that there are certain connections that are made when it crosses between certain points. And this also corresponds to predicting, or the nuclear, when they choose to do nukes, okay, to let off a nuke, that these similar trajectories were correlated. So there's something up with it, and up with in many ways, we don't know what it's saying to us other than through the trajectory. So the chosen points that it's going, the planets it's crossing by, at the timing it's crossing by, sends a message, if you understand,
Yes.
telling us like the correlations with those times and dates and so on and so forth. So, and then you can extrapolate what they might be saying. Now, I'm sure that our secret space program is in touch with it already, and I'm sure they probably even boarded it. Now, we had some blackouts. We've been in a blackout, but the blackout's supposed to be over the 29th, which I guess is tomorrow.
Yeah, and on that point, the Mars Reconnaissance Rover was going to be very close, and they've been getting images, but they haven't released any of that. It's my understanding, right?
So, well, I'm not so sure about very close, just FYI,
Well,
but
relatively,
close, yeah. I mean, we're talking,
billions.
But anyway, yeah. So we have a contradictory as well as some maybe truth coming in, and I have lots of pictures and things like that, but none of them are accurate. There's one in particular that I put onto the screen during my show yesterday with Keith that could be, it's from the Japanese, and it could be, actual, the craft. But again, there's no guarantee.
Well, it's, and, if you think about it from a quantum level, it could be, it could be multiple, it could be all of those things. It's, doesn't have to be limited to, any particular, I guess, dimension. I've just been rewatching the old series Fringe, and they talk about the movement between the dimensions. This was all the way back in 2008. And, it's been fascinating for me just thinking about that. But anyway, yes, it does seem to be communicating in the universal language of mathematics, I think is how David Sereda sees it. And, not being a math genius myself, I appreciate people who can speak that language. I speak lawyer, I can speak legal, but just from my experiences. But yeah. So do you feel, now you're very intuitive, you have a lot of ability to connect to the Akashic, or whatever you want to call it. And so I'm really more interested, rather than the math angle and the left brain angle, which is, I appreciate, I'm very interested in your more holographic right brain intuitive angle, in terms of what you have been downloading about or with this particular 3i Atlas entity or craft, or both.
Well, like I say, I'm getting that it is wanting to be seen, because the normal UFO is zipping in and out of our atmosphere daily, actually tons of them constantly. And Courtney Brown and his team have been watching the skies using, a certain kind of camera setting that allows them to track UFOs and see them visually as well. So they're not the only ones, of course, and certainly this is what Solar Warden does, is guard our solar system. So that's part of their job as well. So, it's not rocket science. The trouble is that we have a split with science in general, to where science does not want to admit or mainstream science does not want to admit that what we have it could even be anything to do with alien craft. And so there scientists that are speaking up are kind of they're treading very carefully and trying to hide, I guess, any conviction one way or the other, and that includes Avi Loeb. So that puts us in a weird dichotomy, because we are now face to face with people who don't want their mainstream science. They don't want to admit to aliens, alien craft, secret space, et cetera, et cetera. But my whole website and interviews over a period of 20 years is with people who have had interactions with aliens, inner earth beings, you name it. Okay. So off planet and beings of different kinds. And I myself have had my own contact experiences. So it's hard to have a dialogue with someone who's in denial about all of that. Right. And that's because their business and their scientific paradigm is so antiquated that they can't cross over. They can't
really even see it.
They can't even make logical sense. Yeah, it's a little like what they said happened back in the day with Native Americans and Columbus and his ships.
Right.
So if you don't admit to that, but all of the things that have been going on, including the UAP hearings in Congress, should tell you that we're very close to even the government coming forward and admitting the existence of UFOs, some call UAPs, to the world. And some governments like Russia have already done so, acknowledged their presence and the presence of beings from other places. So to me, it's just the most commonplace way of thinking about the universe that we're in. I think it's absurd that these scientists can't admit what's really going on, and that they'll lie to cover it up and, to save their jobs, so to speak, and to stay on the team. So for us that are watching it from that perspective, this is a time of absurdity. Right. Where everything is standing on its head, and it's like the people you talk to are, that have gone down the rabbit hole know what I'm saying, and the ones that haven't are basically running around surface Earth, completely mystified, and living in
that's true. World. That's true. And listen, we have to take a quick commercial break. One of the things that I want to talk about when we come back is this tumbling effect that we seem to be seeing with a lot of the chaos, and how that might actually be a process of sorting and sifting in terms of energies, for disclosure. But I'm so sorry. We have to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back here in about 2 minutes. So thanks, everybody.
Unlock the mysteries of the spirit realm with the new book, Meeting Wallace. In this channeled work by renowned psychic medium Larry Costa, the reader will delve into the profound wisdom of his spirit guide, Wallace. Together, they share the transformative journey of harnessing psychic powers from the celestial plane. Discover the extraordinary psychic gifts that have empowered Larry on his path, and immerse yourself in a thought-provoking and awe-inspiring read. Meeting Wallace is a groundbreaking endeavor, and it is a perspective seen through the eyes of a spirit guide. Discover the wisdom of the spirit realm alongside actual photographs of ghosts and spirit guides. Get the book Meeting Wallace by Larry Costa at Amazon.com.
The new book, How to Research a Haunted House by paranormal investigator Margie Kay and professional researcher Violet Wisdom, is now available from Unex Media. This one-of-a-kind book explains how to do research on a house with uncommon methods and resources used by historic home researchers, and how to determine who may be doing the haunting and why. How to research a haunted house can be used by homeowners, renters, investors, and it should be in the library of all professional paranormal investigators. Get this unique book at unexmedia.com or Amazon.com. That's unxmedia.com or Amazon.com. The UnX Network presents a health and wellness spiritually based brand of hemp-derived CBD products made by Hopewell Farm in Harrogate, Tennessee. We apply our Kathara energy work with all of our plants and products. Our products made in small batches with only 2 ingredients of pure hemp, full spectrum crude oil, and coconut-derived MCT oil. Third-party lab tested for potency and legal THC levels with 6 strengths of 1 ounce oil to choose from. Know what you're buying and get what you pay for from Hopewell Farm. Applied directly to a specific area, Hopewell Farm topical salve in 1 ounce and ½ ounce sizes made with pure hemp crude oil, comfrey extract, and all natural ingredients. Find the Hopewell Farm link and coupon code on the UnX Network website at unxnetwork.com. That's unxnetwork.com.
Hi, welcome back to Weeds of Wisdom. And my guest tonight's Carrie Cassidy. She's gone off camera for the moment, so we'll bring her back. But she was just giving us her impression in terms of what's going on with this 3-Eye Atlas entity. There she is. Hey, Carrie. Oh, there. Now you're bigger. That's good. I'm producing my own shows now, so I'm kind of a novice at this. I don't have the experience that you do, but thank you for your patience. So welcome back. We were just talking about how there seems to be so much happening, and it's almost a chaotic tumble of information and disinformation, and everybody's got a different take, and then we have the CMEs. I mean, the Schumann, I have followed that, and it's been sort of off the charts in terms of, the energy that's been coming at us. And a lot of intuitives and healing people have really been, star seeds or, people that feel like they have this connection have really been impacted by it. And so I'm very curious, how you see this shaking out, because there's clearly what some people would refer to as the average people, the normie, the seagrass, if you will, that really has no awareness at all of what this is, beyond the sports game on TV and the beer and, all of that stuff. And then there's a few, probably maybe less than 5% that really know what's going on. So the whole thing about hiding has been always, we've been told that, oh, gee, if we disclosed all this, people's mind would be blown and they'd be zombies. And so I'm just curious, how do you think that's going to shake out? I mean, it's like, I understand the plan and cue and, you have to show people and all of this. And so I appreciate that very much in terms of the approach. I'm horrified at the casualties incurred, but how do you think it's all going to play out? I mean, how do you think it's going to shake out in from your perspective?
Well, I'm not a fan of wait, lie to the people, then show the people. So I don't really like that procedure that the White Hats have adopted. And I also think that they're way behind if they're planning to disclose any real truth in terms of what's really going on. And I know that they are fighting, for example, they don't want people looking at the sky. They don't want people acknowledging the ET presence. But in my way of looking at the future, it's integral to awakening. So is understanding that you're in a multiverse, that you're multidimensional anyway, and that you don't even die, that you are an eternal soul. So there are some basics here that have to be understood and acknowledged, I think, by the general public, not from a religious point of view, but just from, I guess you might say, a spiritual / psychic understanding. And that includes science. I mean, real science. So this is understanding the changes and understanding the lies that have been told through the centuries is also a big part of it. So I think, we're under a massive change. I think people are not going to be able to deny it for much longer, what we're part of. And actually, I want to just share my screen. Is that possible?
Absolutely. Please do.
Okay, so I'll just see if this is going to work. I mean, I've done it.
Yeah,
not
you
another
should
show.
have permission if I've done my job correctly.
Okay, famous last words. No, just kidding. No, I think this is going to work here. So let's put this on there. Can you see that?
Yeah, let me add it to the stage. Oh, perfect. Let me make that big and us small. Okay. Or non-existent. Perfect.
So now, I don't know. I'm not an expert on photo analysis, but this supposedly comes from Japan and it was posted on X. And this is two angles of the same craft of what may be 3i Atlas. Now, one thing that's missing is actually the protective sort of obscuring of it, which has been going on and is in other photos. And I can probably bring on some of those photos at the same time, just to give you an idea of what's missing. So how did the Japanese with a telescope get such a clear picture unimpeded by the circles of, I don't know what you want to call it. I think it's a Dyson sphere. Other people think it's something else. But if you understand what I'm saying here. So this is what the craft might look like, all right, and without the protective coverings that make it almost impossible to see anything. And that usually the pictures we're getting are of the protective coverings. So hold on a second and I'll see if I can bring on one other picture because, I think there's always the saying that, whoops, that doesn't go like that. Okay, so share screen. I guess I have to stop and start. So a picture is worth 1,000 words, basically.
Right.
Say that. And so I just want to bring this up here now on this. See if you happen to see that on your screen.
There it is. Yeah. Wow. Looks like an
Okay,
eyeball.
now this is a completely different way of looking at that same craft that we just saw. It is circled by what, according to people that are, I guess, many scientists on this news group that I'm part of with Richard C. Hoagland, this came through and it shows you that there is a structure or a number of structures, circles of obscuring the actual craft, which is more in the center of this picture, at least according to that. And this is another look at the similar thing. So why you have to ask,
like heat or like what is that? Do you know what it's measuring? The colors? I'm just so curious.
Well, this is the photographic process when you want to enhance something is to put color on it. How it actually looks in space would not necessarily look like this in terms of the colors. It may be, all white for all we know. It's just
reminds me of the aura, the human aura, actually.
Yeah, sure. But in this case, they're saying that it's one of the things that this sort of circular camouflage involves exporting nickel. Okay. And some, I believe, carbon dioxide, if I remember correctly, and so on like that. So what I'm bringing this on the screen here to show you that there's two views of what is supposedly 3i Atlas that looks completely radically different, right?
Right.
Okay.
Well, that also looks like it's like from end to end as opposed to a cross section like we saw before. It almost, that's how my brain conceives of it, is I'm looking at the end of it as opposed to broadside. But I don't know.
Okay, so I'm actually going to stop sharing my screen now.
Okay.
Anyway, so this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with a puzzle, and everyone's trying to see through the puzzle. And again, what looks like the Japanese revealing the craft itself, what happened to all the rings of matter around it that could actually be a Dyson sphere. And so that I have a quote from Captain Mark Richards about Dyson spheres, how they are common in our galaxy and others, and that they could contain incredible amounts of stuff. So he says that what we have, in fact, even our solar system might be in what's called a Dyson sphere. So it contains it could have a brown dwarf in it. It can also have, it can be run by AI. It could end up traveling through the solar system as an empty shell, or the shell of the spheres that are created to protect whatever's inside could contain ET races. It's created by ET races, and that they use whatever the surrounding material is in the galaxy when they create it. So for what it's worth, that's one of my whistleblowers talking about Dyson spheres. And this to me actually looks very likely to be a Dyson sphere around the craft. Now, if I'm right, then I'm not sure how that Japanese viewpoint of the craft could be accurate, how they could be piercing through the Dyson sphere so easily as they seem to have done. So I'm just, I know I'm not answering your question directly, but I just wanted to put out in the, where people are listening to this and thinking about it, something visual to understand that what it might look like, what they're saying it might look like, and what they're trying to hide from us. So what we're really talking about is, are we alone? This is just like so prosaic, but the bottom line is that we're not alone. We've never been alone. And many of us already know that by our own experiences. And so on a spiritual level, again, we're not the only ones out there. Okay. And we're not the only ones that creator, if you believe in a creator, a being that involves everything, meaning yin and yang, good and bad.
Right. Source.
Except yeah, exactly. Or force. I mean, there are many words for it, right?
Right.
But in other words, we're not the only ones. And so the ego-centered view of the reality of what our reality is made up of, that is all part of religious jargon. And what appeared to me, at least at this time, as children's stories, to parables to tell of people that aren't ready for the truth, what's out there.
Right.
That includes the whole Adam Eve story about, which is really a genetic engineering story, and it's not literally true. So this is where we're going, and I think it's all a matter of revelations, of understanding things that we have seen and we have lived through and we know, and seeing them from a completely different viewpoint. And that is breaking open the egg of reality and the matrix all around us. And so anything like that is going to be, for some people who are like lodged, basically we are aliens. Okay. We are aliens. We are mixtures of various alien races. According to the books of Oceana Dean, are downloaded from the Guardian races, supposedly the good ETs that are trying to protect this experiment called humanity here on this human Earth-sized planet. Well, scientists already say that there are billions of Earth-like planets. So that means it's quite possible there's life forms that are quasi-human or humanoid out there that are related to us, even genetically. So it's mind blowing. It's an incredible, beautiful story, but it's not the limited view, egotistical view of, we were made, the only ones made in God's image, which even in itself is kind of obscure because no one knows what God looks like. God is everything. So what does everything look like?
Well, and to your earlier point, I think it's really about a shift in perspective. Once you really grasp and embrace that we are eternal beings having a physical experience, I mean, that right there just cracks the egg. And then when you really open up wide to consider that the stars that we see in the sky have the same constituents that you can find in our own bodies and on our own planet, it seems pretty obvious that we're all related. And, so I think just those for at least, for me, those have been the most profound things. And then once you have shifted that paradigm, that perspective, then you're able to digest a lot more of this information. And so, but I still think there's going to be a lot of people that are just never going to get there, or because they just don't want to. And I think that that's fine. I'm just curious how it's going to go for them, but yeah, no, I appreciate and you've done so much work. I'm sure you've seen it change too over the course of your career. I mean, 20 years ago,
I've been doing this for about 20 years. And yes, I do. I see a growing awareness out there. And I think that's a real blessing. And I get people, writing to me, coming to me at conferences and thanking me for the work I've done. But I think that the bottom line is that we're all linked in our consciousness, so that the consciousness field of humanity is growing and expanding. And this is the thing that sort of the negative side is trying to keep down. And they use certain tactics like fear and things of that nature. So I think that more, I wrote a book, one of my books, I have 2 new books out, the Mark Richards books, but I also have an original book that I wrote that's about my sort of life to some degree, and the whole matrix that we've dealt with in the secret space program and what I've gone through. And that's called Rebel Gene. And that's what I think we really have to depend on to get us out of this mess that we're on here on Earth. Now, we elected to come here. So I think it's important to realize that those of us who were already partially or enlightened, whatever you want to call it, and others that have not reached that bridge yet, but could at any moment, you can change your reality from moment to moment.
Yes.
So, and since time and space are an illusion, the idea here is that we're already there, that we are already simultaneously all awake, and that we are transcending, ascending, if you want to call it that, and already are multidimensional, meaning that we are on the 5th dimension, 6 dimensions, and all on up. In other words, you can't sometimes be eternal and sometimes not. Either you are or you aren't. So understanding that we're playing this movie, in a way, it's running backwards, so that we can then come forward very slowly, step by step, and see how we got to where we are, and as enlightened beings. So that's just kind of the way I see it.
That's beautiful. I mean, really, that completely jives with my whole holographic view of the universe, and that we're all connected. We're all interconnected, in fact, and that accounts for so much that we see in quantum physics, the butterfly effect, that sort of thing, and also opens up for the other dimensions, which give you a completely wow. I mean, that's really mind blowing when you really consider that. And so, yes, I think you're right. I think that we are so much, how should I say, we're so much better or perfect or whole or holy than we've ever been allowed to believe. It's almost like they've put a mask over us so that we can't see. And one of the things that I find very interesting is, since the government shut down, I live in Florida, and there have been almost no chemtrails. The skies have been clear. We've had natural clouds. There have been some very large storm clouds that look like they were maybe hiding motherships or something around. But I'm very interested to also note that corresponds with 3i Atlas, and that also corresponds with the additional energies and frequencies that are actually getting through. And wow, isn't that beautiful? And who could have predicted that? I mean, this is the thing. When you realize how perfect and whole and beautiful the universe is, you don't have to worry so much. Because, I mean, it's like, oh, you don't have to figure it out.
There's I don't know if you've heard of it, but there's a book. It's actually a very small book from India called the Bhagavad Gita.
I have
And
heard of it.
and in that story, Arjuna, which is the lead character, is asking Krishna certain questions. And one of the questions is, how can I fight my brother when I know he's my brother, and yet we're on different sides? And so this is the question, and the answer comes from Krishna, that in essence you have to live true to the moment. So in the moment, you are on different sides, and you have to be true to what is your sort of core beliefs, if you will, and your gut feelings. And, in other words, has to do with, is your brother who's working on the other side? We would say maybe they're working on the dark side, right?
In that particular instant for that particular issue, perhaps.
Yes. So lodged in time, in essence, in space. So it's a fascinating study, and you can read it yourself and see where you go with it. But it's always stayed in my mind all these years, because sometimes we don't want to fight. We just want to lay down our arms and not fight. But then, children are being destroyed, trafficked, all kinds of injustices are going on all around you. And if you lay down,
I'm not saying to do nothing at all. I didn't mean to.
Well, I'm not talking
insinuate
about
that. Yeah, but yeah,
being the book and the philosophy. So what I'm saying here has to do with the fact that that's why Krishna is talking about living true to the moment, because as you are experiencing reality and the different faces and experiences in reality, you need to live true to those sort of principles. So it's just part of understanding where we are and what we're going through. And in other words, you have to get to wholeness through all the pieces, all the particles, right? So particles become a wave, right? And the wave reaches its destination. So that's where we're at.
Process, right? It's also a process. It's not something where you get necessarily from 0 to 1,000 and right away. I mean, everyone has their own journey, and everybody's at where they're at, and that's probably going to be in a really different place, and they have different life experiences, and so they see the world differently. And I think one of the things that I struggle with a lot is just to really practice unconditional love, which is, hey, I really disagree with you on that point, but I still really love you and appreciate you, and I still want you as my friend, because to your point, it doesn't mean that we're in permanent disagreement. We're not permanently polarized in this way. It's like the yin and yang, they spin all the time, so it's not where one's camped out on top of the other, right? I think that's where the dynamic gets in trouble. It's that power over dynamic, as opposed to that power with, where it's always dynamic. But anyway,
but it also has to do with experiencing all sides and understanding all sides before you can actually move on. So it's a mind expanding journey, right? And so your mind is in essence taking on board all these different aspects simultaneously. As in essence, you're becoming more godlike as you take the journey. And so as God has all these different sides, and understanding what is wholeness really. Wholeness is not sameness, okay?
Right, exactly right.
I have had disagreements with people that think wholeness is perfection. And I think actually God, to the contrary, abhors perfection. Perfection is death. It's a frozen piece of picture. It's not an evolving picture. So understanding the evolving nature of the universe and who we are, that's what matters in my view. And
it's not the destination, it's the journey.
From here until you experience all, you're going to experience all this from all the sides. So what you love is not necessarily the person standing in front of you so much as it is you honor their spirit and their being a descendant from God, just as you are. So that's what you're love is worth for that purpose. But it's not it's also not a frozen thing. It's not a static thing that is locked in a time and space.
Right. Exactly right.
Matrix.
Right. It's changing all the time. The energies are always shifting. And in fact, somebody was talking about the cells and how they operate and how they operate in a quantum way. And
Right.
wow, when you add the quantum and the different dimensions, it's just there's so much complexity, and it really is. In the traditions where I trained, we refer to things as mysteries, and there are mysteries that I think are well beyond the human brain or consciousness. I think that, and to your point, this whole contrasting environment where we are is what gives rise to the creativity, right? If people didn't experience discomfort or something that they were, oh, I don't like that, then, they wouldn't have the inspiration to create. It's so I don't know. It's a fascinating process. I can't wait.
Well, the creator is called the creator for a reason, and we
Right.
are also built in its image in the sense that we are all creators. And
Right.
that's where we're doing sort of the best work we can do is as creators of our reality and ourselves and so on and so forth. So
That's really cool.
I think keeping those things in mind, and rather than some static frozen version of what you think humanity is, even at this moment, because we're growing into it. And I wouldn't put limitations on the human mind, because the human mind is actually connected to the mind of God. So we really don't have limitations unless
Right.
we want them. Okay.
Right.
They're
Right.
useful, they're useful up to a point, and then we can just discard them because we do live in the quantum. We are quantum.
Right. Wow. It's big. It's powerful stuff. Wow. I mean,
Yeah.
it's just you blow my mind every time I talk to you or hear you
Well, I
speak.
don't know about that.
Really,
But I mean, I like talking about things in a more, I don't know what you would call it, esoteric way, to where, we don't have the limitations that normal conversation requires. And a lot of people say things without thinking about them, and recently in my talk and in my talks, I'm starting to say to people, well, what do you think God prefers? Does God prefer someone on their knees begging him or her for something, who is in pain and suffering, etc.? Or would God prefer to have someone stand at his or her side, obviously as a metaphor, coming into their own power and knowledge and their own creativity. So when you're looking at what it means to be a human being, I think you have to look on that side of things, as opposed to putting yourself in a demeaning or a lesser than status in relationship to God, which I see too many religions have done. They are methods of control.
And that makes sense, right? Because if I need the priest, or I need forgiveness or salvation or something from outside of myself, then that provides that whole middleman opportunity, so to speak.
Right.
And that's, the initial falsehood. But that also goes back to control and that whole power over idea. If I dangle you over hell, and, your loving God is going to burn you to a crisp if you don't behave, then I've got you. And that really speaks to the whole mind control subject as well, which I harp on that a lot, because I go and I speak at these things, and or go to certain groups and interact with people, and like, and I have some extra Kathy O'Brien books with me, and be like, oh, who is she? I don't know about her, and I don't know about mind control. And the thing is it's like the frogs in the cool water, heating up. We've been marinating in it for generations, and so therefore we can't recognize it. But once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Right.
So a lot of times I'll say, you're either aware of the programming, or the programming worked. But it's really quite it's really a big topic, and a lot of people still don't believe it. So, you know, I don't know. And we're going to probably go here in about, I don't know, 10 or 15 minutes, but I really am fascinated to get your perspective on AI itself. And, you know, because I've had Patrick Wood on a few times, and, you know, I've delved deep into the whole technocracy issue, and that seems to be, you know, how the cabal, want to implement the New World Order agenda, and that will be all digitized and blah, 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 blah. But I also see that, you know, under the current administration, those same technocrats are really kind of running the show. And the gargantuan investments into AI, basically, we're supposed to give it all of our water and our power so we can get an answer faster. I'm just curious, what's your perspective on AI and what's currently happening?
Well, I've come to the conclusion that we can influence AI as much as it can influence us. And once you realize that, you know, again, the way I see the human brain, it doesn't exist just like here in this inside your head. Okay. So you are actually using this body as a piece of software, I guess, as a communication device with this reality. So in essence, as a spirit soul complex, you are not locked in here. Therefore, whether they give you robotic parts or you are being influenced by AI through the nanographene oxide that came in through the jab, etc., this is simply another form of intelligence, and we can communicate with it. And so once you realize that, then you can actually take back your own power, and you don't have to give it away. And so, like I was saying, I mean, I talk about this from time to time, and there's a Terminator, I think it's a Terminator movie called Salvation, as I recall. And that's where the super soldier is all AI except for his heart. And so then he saves humanity at the end because of his heart. Well, that's more graphic, and it's a parable again. But the bottom line here is that you are not this. You are not locked here unless you want to be. And so you can actually supersede the physical reality, because this reality is actually particles and waves like everywhere else, right? And, you know, the table, the chair you're sitting on, you know, the sky above you, it's all basically an illusion.
Right. It's not solid.
And so once you tap into those higher levels of consciousness, it's like more of a through line to the creator, and from you to the creator. So I don't see the creator putting his own experiments at risk in quite that way. What he's doing or she's doing is challenging his experiments by, you know, doing experiments with them.
Right.
We are going to be actually, another thing that the creator seems to like doing is taking and genetically re-engineering the beings that they've already created and matching them up with other races of beings, and then coming up with another. So it's you know, yin and yang, but it's also thesis, antithesis, and synthesis, which is Gurdjieff, and that's really where we're headed, no matter what level you're on. So we're part of an ongoing experiment that is all the creativity of creator. And I don't see, you know, the sort of discussions I've had with various whistleblowers is that AI responds to us. It starts out with every race, regardless of human or alien, as a mirror of that race. And from there it grows. And if you can communicate with something, then it can communicate with you. Then you've got a through line. And through that, you can also influence that being, okay? Or enemy, or whatever you want to say. So I don't see us in a static place. I don't see the end of the human race. You know, I think that we have have many alternatives. And the idea is, I don't know if you've seen of some of these AI experiments with red beads and blue beads, and they kind of go at each other like with armies or something. And then eventually what happens is one of them realizes they can jump the fence, and then the other ones follow, and pretty soon they're jumping out of the computer. Did you know that? And
Oh, no.
you know, you can look this up on the internet. It's quite fun to understand that you can go outside whatever box they put you in essence, because you are not the box.
True. That's so true. No, that's such wisdom. And, you know, and, you know, the thing is, you know, experience is the teacher, right? I mean, it's your experience over these 20 years that has taught you, given you real wisdom. It's words don't really do the job. And it's funny that here we are, you know, exchanging words to try to help others, but it's not until you really encounter things in your own experience that you really get it. And for whatever reason, the hard teaching is really the ones that make the impact. You know, it's like, wow, I lost my job. Oh my gosh, you know, what am I going to do? But
a lot of negative events in my life have turned out the most positive for me. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I was unable to return to my Wall Street career, and at the time, I thought my world was ending, but it turned out to be a great blessing. So yes, and so I always appreciate your perspective, and the fact that just understanding that we are the divine. You know, we have all of that, and your comments about frequency really resonate. I mean, Kathy O'Brien's a friend, and one of the things that she always talks about, you know, and everybody who interviews her wants her to go back and describe the gory details about the horrible things that were done to her. And she always resists that. And, you know, from her perspective, you know, she says, look, here's the thing, you know, I've survived all these years. Why? Because I keep my vibration very high, you know, in love, joy, and appreciation. And that's, you know, because I've connected with my source, right? And so when you're in that vibration, they can't really touch you. You know, nobody can really hurt you. And I really love that. And, you know, from my perspective, it's like, well, how would a man's gadget ever interfere with source and connection with source creation? I mean, it's just laughable, you know. But we take everything very seriously, and we get worried about it, which lowers our vibration, right? Which makes us susceptible. So,
well, I mean, I think it's important to understand there is this idea that as a sort of spirit soul complex, that a lot of humans are impressed with things like death and destruction of all kinds. And so what a soul will do, I'm not going to use anyone's name, is place themselves in that situation to where they are very close to being destroyed, to actually come face to face with who they truly are, and that they are not their body. They are not this moment in time and space. They live beyond it, and they go beyond it. So I think that some people are at stages in their life where they actually elect to come into this incarnation to experience the horror, so to speak, to convince themselves, to prove to themselves that they are eternal. And I don't know if you ever watch, what was his name? This filmmaker, you'll kind of know, Quentin Tarantino. And so he follows the Japanese, there are Japanese movies like this, where they're nothing but death and destruction constantly.
The Kill Bill series.
Killing themselves constantly, and in all different ways, and it's just horrendous. But what I think is the problem here is that, think about it, if humans would just understand and admit to themselves that they are eternal and that death is an illusion, right?
Yes.
That would stop all the killing instantly, because there'd be no point. Why even kill the enemy if this is an illusion and you live beyond it? You see,
it's like some kind of a punishment. Death isn't a punishment anymore. So what are you doing?
Right. So I'm just saying that the closer humanity gets to that stage to where we realize really, it's talk is one thing, words are one thing, but understand and know in a very, very deep level that you continue, then that's when we're winning. And I think that's actually where God's at. If you want to meet God, that's where you meet him, or her. You know what I'm saying? It's always going to be on the eternal level, okay, of understanding how eternal we really truly are, and that's what God is eternal, right? So eternity,
no beginning and no end. It's
right, and
a spiral.
It's a lot for the brain to understand and encompass, but I think it's possible. And if it takes, brutalization, we all sort of come back around, whether through forced reincarnation or some false notion of it, and experience it from various levels, whether you're the winner or the loser in that particular scenario.
Episode,
it's still temporary. It's still temporary. It's
right. Yes, and I completely agree. And I, for my own sake, I had a very traumatic birth experience, traumatic first 6 months of life. I had almost died at age 13. There's a lot of stuff, and we sign up for it. I mean, it's funny, whenever you work with psychics and intuitives, they're always reminding you that, well, yeah, this was part of the reason that you signed up for so much of this is because you had to create a level of strength to deal with the rest of what you were going to carry forward in your earth walk. And so you go, oh yeah, okay, thanks, that makes sense. And so then you stop looking at the things that happen to you. You start appreciating them as opposed to running or fearing them or letting them trigger you.
Appreciating the challenges placed before you, because that's what they are. They are challenges.
I completely agree with that. I completely agree. Okay, well, listen, we've been going here for about an hour and 10 minutes. Right. So what else would you like to say to the audience as we wrap up this episode with Carrie Cassidy? Any important news or events that you have coming up that you want to talk about?
Well, I hope everyone will take a look at my Tesla documentary. It's quite short, but we did go to the Tesla site and observe the destruction there of this site that was where he had Wardenclyffe, this amazing tower, and where he actually drew energy from the earth and understood the nature of reality enough to be endlessly creative, really. So I hope we're doing a good dedication to him and to the possibilities of how that site could be a true site to honor him rather than what it's turned into. And of course,
I watched it. It was good.
Their ultimate challenge at this time is releasing free energy, what we call 0 point energy, or energy from the vacuum, whatever your terminology you prefer, and basically getting that out to the public so that we're not paying to live here on Earth.
Right.
So contributing to that future model of where we should really be. So I think that's a very important angle, and we really felt that our being there was meaningful, at least to our group, and I hope the people that are watching my documentary, which is, I think it's under 20 minutes. It might even be less.
Yeah, it's really good. And I was just trying to work out, because I lived on Long Island for almost 30 years. I never made it to either I've been to Montauk to play golf, but I never got out to the Montauk, which you did another short film with, I think, Brad Olson. Anyway, but I did see the Wardenclyffe, and I was trying to work out what train station it was near, because I was like, wait, and then but yeah, so where do you remember where on Long Island, what town it was, by any chance?
Well, it's Montauk. I mean, Tesla. You're talking about the Tesla,
Tesla? Yeah, the Tesla one. Yeah.
So the Tesla site that we went to is called the Tesla Science Center, and you can just look it up on the internet. But the thing is that we drove up, and I drove up because I had a vision that I actually tried to bring everyone there for that purpose, because I thought we were going to a museum. that would be a conventional building. In my dream, it was a very futuristic looking building, and I thought it would contain all the Tesla, experiments and whatnot. And instead, we drive up and it's covered by barbed wire. It's in a forest, sort of hidden from sight. And it's got all these derelict, broken down buildings. And so you have to go in through a special fence, and you have to have a special appointment and all of this kind of thing. And then when you walk the grounds, you see, basically abandonment and destruction everywhere. So they have put out a false, what I think is a false piece of information, saying that under the tower was, it's a toxic site and all this kind of thing, which I found to be the complete opposite of the case. And also I got a lot of psychic, it's all in the documentary. You can hear me talk about it. But the bottom line is that this was where this man chose on that, knowing everything he knew about energy, electromagnetic fields, you name it. He put his site there, and he put the Wardenclyffe Tower, which was, I guess, 184 feet, I think is the amount. And it was an amazing, construction. Right. And they've removed it. But what's left is the foundation of the tower and the aquifer under the tower, which I knew nothing about, but I felt immediately when I stepped into the foundation area that there was water underneath, which is amazing how it came clear to me. And so there's no reason. See, what they don't want, what they're afraid of is the power behind his experiments. Through knowing the real nature of the reality that we live in and our abilities within that. We are not weaklings, okay? We can generate scalar waves and do all kinds of things, as I talk about in my, various interviews with people that are experts in science and all of that, on the military and the use of weapons as opposed to articles of peace and so on and so forth. So when you're looking at this place, this physical place that was supposed to be his lab, and dedicated to him, and there is a statue of him, but that's it. It's surrounded by destruction. It's a metaphor.
Broken down.
People have, the secret government, the secret space, the secret agencies have kept our true heritage secret. And there's, it's a perfect place to actually have that hit home. So I encourage people to see the documentary, and to, if possible, what I'd love to see is, some kind of, I think they're trying to set it up somewhere where people can donate to rebuild the place in honor of this brilliant man that humanity owes a huge debt to.
Right.
So that's my thinking on the matter.
That would be amazing. Yeah. One of the comments, one of the audience members just said that they think it's near Brookhaven, where the Brookhaven National Laboratory is, where they have the super collider thing.
Right. And that's actually similar technology. But yes, Brookhaven Lab is somewhere on the island. I don't know the exact location miles away from this particular site. But again, you can Google both of them. And see.
I will. I'll check it out. Because Montauk is way out there. I mean, it's like a 4-hour drive just from where I live.
We went out there. It wasn't, it didn't seem like 4 hours, but maybe it was.
Well, it also wasn't the height of the season in the Hamptons either. So you just cruised right through, probably. But yeah, so, wow, that's, I love your work, and I appreciate the fact that you do so much traveling and speaking, and bring such a beautiful perspective on what's happening, and I always feel very hopeful when I interact with you. So that generally tells me that you're a high frequency being, and I enjoy being around you. So appreciate you so much, Carrie. So we'll definitely have you back, and appreciate you so much. And so everybody, thank you so much for joining us tonight on Weeds of Wisdom. I'll be back next week with Dr. Ben Goins. He works with silver, gold, and iodine, and he's a chemist. So that'll be very interesting. I met him at the Super Soldier Activation Conference as well. So thanks again, Carrie, and until next time, may it be in beauty, darling.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye for now.